Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a level check, level check, level check. This is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer. According to my indicators, all platforms are up and running. Facebook, YouTube, Roku, the weather app, the news app, the website, and the streaming channel all seem to be up. I'll be with you in just under 1 minute. Hi everyone, meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer in the streaming center at Fox 19 now. It is 7:15 and time for the First Alert 7:15 live streaming weather show. We start off with a time lapse from Turfway Park starting at 5:06 this morning. You can see the horses working out, the sun comes up, the shadows change position. The sky is mostly blue with a few clouds. The day heats up, we get cumulus clouds forming. There were a few showers around the area, but really not much in the way of shower activity out there. And as we look at the 7:15 shot, the big cloud there is kind of blocking the sun, gives you a nice look at what is going on. So hi there, I'm Steve Horstmeyer, the chief meteorologist here at Fox 19 now, at least for a few more weeks. I retire on the 28th of August. You know, I'm here for a little while yet. Again, we are looking at some really hot and humid weather. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other stuff here. Here's another time lapse that I loaded in here. Thought you'd like to see this one also. It's kind of interesting. We're looking at downtown from Newport on the Levee. You can see basically, look at those shadows of the bridge in that move. You see the cloud cover. There comes the heat of the day and the cumulus clouds. Those cumulus clouds begin to settle down. And there are a few showers in the area. Now, today is a first alert weather day. Tomorrow is also a first alert weather day. The heat index tomorrow is going to be about the same as it was today, and it got quite high in spots today. The National Weather Service has also extended their heat advisory. That heat advisory in effect again tomorrow. Now, one of the models we use shows that the heat index values at 5 p.m. tomorrow, 90s and 100s. But notice Connorsville at 88. This particular model says there'll be a shower over Connorsville around that time, so it's not quite as hot. But if we get enough cloud cover, it'll keep those heat index values down just a little bit. And the heat index today will drop. Now we're looking at it dropping by 8 p.m. to 96, down to about 89 by 10 p.m., and still in the 80s tomorrow morning as you head out the door. So without a doubt, tomorrow will be a steamy day. Okay, now this is interesting. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I have talked about it a couple times since then. But this is that big hot dome of air. It's a big high pressure system. It's hot, it's steamy air. It generally blocks the jet stream from doing anything but going around it. The only kind of weather you get underneath this dome is a few pop-up showers and thunderstorms until it weakens a little bit and the front comes through. And that is what's causing us to be so hot. Now notice, we're just on the edge of it right here. It's even hotter down to the south. But what happens to this is going to determine how quickly we get some relief from this hot and humid air. So let me give it to you full screen again. Put it back into motion and watch that big red dome move off to the west. As it moves to the west, the jet stream comes out of the northwest and guides a front into the tri-state. Now that front should come through here the 28th, 29th, bringing some shower and thunderstorm activity. Could be a severe weather event in our future with that. But behind it, nice, pleasant air for a while. We've got a nice stretch of relief coming our way. And I'll talk about that when we get to beyond the 7-day. We'll show you what it looks like. And it is more than just 1 or 2 days. If it develops the way it looks like it's going to develop, it should be pretty nice. Through the first week of August. But that's it. The hot dome of air recenters itself down here over the southwest. The jet stream bends around it like this. As the jet stream flows out of the north and west, it drags some Canadian air down here. So lower humidity, lower temperatures. But as this front comes through, which looks like the 28th or 29th, maybe the 29th or 30th, it's still kind of iffy because they can vary their speed. We're looking at the chance of some severe weather with that front. After that, some pleasant weather in the forecast for the tri-state. I'll detail some numbers on that coming up here in just a couple of minutes. All right, so notice what happens to the dew points. Okay, whenever you have the dew points well into the 70s like that, that's about as high as they get. Now, they have been higher. The record high dew point temperature for CVG, our official weather reporting station, is 82. It only happens for a brief time. But when I say you're looking at this particular graph, that it doesn't get much more humid than this, this is typically a very humid stretch in Cincinnati. Although it does briefly, the dew points get briefly higher than that. When you have a 7-day stretch like this, you definitely have a stretch of pretty, not historic, but pretty unusual hot, humid weather. But notice, by the time we get to Thursday, the dew points are dropping. Okay, they're still sticky at 69 degrees, but we've got some. That's just a hint of what's going to come. All right, and then if we take a look at the heat index values with those same days, you can see 100. Now Saturday, the models are saying more cloud cover and some rainfall that would keep the temperature down and therefore the humidity, therefore the heat index down. But high temperatures and heat index values in the 90s. For Sunday and Monday, that means a number of spots in the 100s, 101 on Tuesday, 98, but then dropping, well, the man there is kind of blocking it, but dropping to a heat index around 84 degrees for that Thursday. All right, so if we take a look at the radar and satellite loop, you can see there was some shower and thunderstorm activity in our southeastern counties. So from Maysville over into West Union and then along the Ohio River in Adams County, maybe a little bit in southeastern parts of Brown County, some lightning, some thunder, nothing severe, but a nice brief heavy downpour. Elsewhere, notice what's happening. You can see the shower activity pops up and goes away right away. Now, here's something that sounds counterintuitive, but when you have hot and humid air at the surface, that heats the air from below, and that air starts to rise. Okay, and that's how we end up getting those pop-up thunderstorms. The air starts to rise. As it rises, it cools. As it cools, the humidity in it begins to condense into water droplets, and every water droplet that condenses from humidity or from water vapor gives off heat. When you think of the trillions and trillions and trillions of times this happens in a big cumulus cloud that's rising, that gives you a significant amount of heat to make that rising air a little bit warmer. Okay, it doesn't actually warm up, but it doesn't cool off very quickly. So if the air upstairs is cool, that air inside the cumulus cloud will be much lighter, less dense than the air upstairs, and it can continue to rise. However, in weather like this, where we have that hot dome of air over us, the air is really warm upstairs, and so there's no oomph for that, no push for that cloud to rise. So we get a few showers, they rise about as far as they can, and then they die out. So it sounds counterintuitive to say, hey, the air upstairs is warm and that's inhibiting the showers, but that's exactly what happens. The biggest thunderstorms occur with very warm, moist air at the surface and cool air aloft. And that cool air aloft encourages that rising thermal to rise even faster, and that helps generate the storms. So what we have here, you see, now we had a pretty good set of showers and thunderstorms. They died out pretty quickly there in Adams County, but look at this. You see a shower popping up and it just goes away. They try to grow, they get to the point where they can't grow anymore and poof, they're gone. And that's what's going to happen probably tomorrow. However, tomorrow evening it may be a different story, and we'll look at that coming up here in just a second. Airport temperatures at 7 p.m. Still in the 90s at Madison, Falmouth, Harrison, Hamilton, Lebanon, Middletown, Springboro, and Ashland, Falmouth too, and Batavia. CVG's dropped to 88. The high temperature so far, based on preliminary data at CVG, was 91, but several places were hotter than that. Okay, the latest heat index in the upper 90s and lower 100s. Now, once again, we're looking at the microclimates around here. Batesville had a heat index of about 109 earlier today. Okay, right now it's 111 in Lebanon. Lebanon had a heat index of 118 earlier today. Those are not typical of what's going on around the tri-state. So when you look at that, you've got to consider the microclimate. For example, look at this. Heat index at Lunken 100, Hamilton 100, Middletown 102. They share something that gives them the higher heat index values, and that's that Middletown's Hook Field, where the temperature and humidity are measured, is right along the Great Miami River. So down in the river valley, you've got a higher water table, which generally means wetter soil, and you've got a lot of water evaporating off of the river, and that increases the dew point, puts the heat index up higher. Same thing with the Butler County Regional Airport, right along the Great Miami River. And of course, Sunken Lunken, as we call it affectionately, is right at the junction of two rivers, the Ohio and the Little Miami. So they typically have higher heat index values. Same thing with Madison, right there near the Ohio River. But the two that really stand out most of the time, Batesville, which is not that exceptional right now because the small Hillenbrand Airport is surrounded by farm fields, and those crops transpire a lot of moisture. If you remember, last week I was telling you about some research into that Brad Mousehart did. And he found out that the best answer was that an acre of corn can transpire 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of water a day in a 24-hour period. So just think of 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of water being pushed into the air. That really increases the humidity, and that's what's happening here in Lebanon. Okay, that heat index is way up there. Batesville, not so outstanding now, but earlier today it was up to about 108 or 9. And you can see several other places with heat indexes still around the 100-degree mark. So you also always have to consider microclimate. And so even though the Lebanon airport hit 118 earlier, that is not typical. That's really dangerous. I mean, that is a very dangerous heat index value. So that's not typical of what's going on around the tri-state. Okay, latest dew point temperatures. Look at it. Lebanon 81. That's because of all that moisture being transpired by the crops. 79 in Batesville. That too because of the moisture being transpired by the crops. Everybody else pretty much in the 70s. And dew point of 75 is pretty unusual in the Cincinnati area. However, another little bit of research that Brad Mousehart did was he tried to find out how often we are getting dew points in the 70s and how much that's increasing. And so just based on CVG, you can't use Lunken Airport, you can't use the data before CVG because that officially was taken downtown, and that reflects more the urban influence. So when Brad did the research on that, he found out that the number of times we're hitting a dew point of 70 or higher is increasing at by about 10 per 30 per 10 years, okay? So every 10 years, we're getting 30 additional observations of dew points in the 70s. Well, that doesn't sound like much, but if you make that over a century, that's 300 hours more in a century of dew points in the 70s. That's a lot, 300 hours. That's not far from 2 full weeks. So as the Earth warms, what's happening is there's more energy in the air with the hotter temperatures to evaporate moisture. More moisture is being evaporated, put into the atmosphere, and therefore the dew points are higher, and so is the heat index. Okay, talking about those dew point values, this is a 24-hour change, and you can see Richmond's up 13 degrees from 24 hours ago, Hamilton up 11, CVG up 7, up 9 in Batavia, Maysville up 6, up 7 in Madison. So the dew point is on the rise, and that's what we were talking about, that we were going to go from, we had a really nice day not long ago, to kind of sticky to really sticky today, and that's because those dew points have risen so much. Okay, now here's what the model says. The model is saying that we should see some showers around the area by about 8:30 p.m. Now, I was just looking at radar. Let me look at it again here. There was nothing showing up, but there were a couple of big cumulus clouds forming. So the model's saying, hey, where you see the Hillsborough area up there around Loveland, there might be a shower here in the next little while. It dies down really quickly, of course. Nothing else happens overnight. We stop the clock at 7 a.m. The morning commute looks dry. Temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, dew points about the same, so really, really steamy as you head out the door, but definitely on the dry side. Then as we head through the day, we've got some scattered showers popping up. You see some right there around noontime. They go away as the others do, and then a little disturbance gets closer and closer and begins to set off some shower and thunderstorm activity. So it looks like through the evening hours of Friday, we might see some showers and thunderstorms. And there, see, this particular model is saying that, well, the northern part of Butler County, like Oxford, and then north into Preble County, may see a few strong thunderstorms, but I really don't think that's going to happen. We'll have to keep an eye on it, though. Sunset at 8:57 today. It's 88 right now, dropping to 80 by 11 p.m. The humidity still high, and then overnight down into the mid-70s, so a very steamy, muggy way to start your day. Friday, look for a high of 91. The normal high is 86. Sunsets at 8:56, so a little bit earlier. Low temperature normally is 66. We'll be in the 70s, so we're going to end up make that a day that's good 6 to 7 degrees warmer than normal around the tri-state. Okay, we've also been talking about this for a while. We've been showing that the Climate Prediction Center was saying a large area of cooler than normal weather is going to form in southern Canada, push into the northern Great Lakes, and it did that. And it's now forecast to push between the 30th of July and the 3rd of August, push as far south as Interstate 70 in Ohio. And watch what happens. Now remember, we're talking about that big hot dome of air moving back to the west, the jet stream coming out of the north and west. And when that happens, that should push this cooler air southward, and lo and behold, the forecast from the Climate Prediction Center shows that cooler than normal weather extending all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia, South Carolina, down into the northeastern corner of Oklahoma, and we're on the cooler side. Now, it's not that's wintertime cool, but it is cooler, it is less humid, and we've got some relief on the way, and I'll show you some numbers on that coming up here in just a couple minutes. Okay, as far as the precipitation goes, the 6 to 10 day outlook says we'll be near normal to slightly drier than normal. As we head to the 8 to 14 day outlook, not really much of a change. It's near normal to drier than normal, so no big drought kind of conditions, just a little bit drier than normal. And here's your 7-day forecast. Okay, we're looking at a 75-degree low tonight, a high of 91. The heat index tomorrow up to 102. The Reds play tomorrow evening at Great American Ballpark, and it is a fireworks Friday. Okay, 73 and 91 on Saturday. On Sunday, 102 for the heat index. So you can see the 7-day forecast, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, all about the same. Wednesday begins to dry out. Thursday gets a little bit cooler. Not that much cooler, still heat index values in the 90s, but that is setting up a trend, okay? So scattered showers and thunderstorms, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday, probably a few, and then Wednesday and Thursday drying out. And we're not looking at anything severe in here until perhaps we get, give me a second here, okay. Until we get into like Tuesday night, Wednesday, probably Wednesday into Thursday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, we may see the chance of some severe weather, but it does begin to dry out as we head through. That's that cooler air mass and that cool front I mentioned before. Okay, let's go to beyond the 7-day forecast. Come on, computer, let's go to beyond this. There we go. Beyond the 7-day forecast, look at that. High temperatures, except for the 4th of August, in the low 80s. Low temperatures dropping into the 60s, and really not much, if anything, in the way of rainfall from the first right on through the 7th. Now, that also means some drier conditions. Look at the heat index values. They drop into the low 80s, actually even into the upper 70s, and so that's actually pleasant weather for summer around the tri-state. So we may have a good 7-day stretch with some pretty pleasant weather around here. Keep your fingers crossed that the models aren't pulling a fast one on us. And when we look at beyond, or the 7-day plus, you can see that abrupt cooling trend as that cool front arrives. We go from 92 down to a high of 85, then into the low 80s, and morning lows, excuse me, the low temperatures do drop below normal for a while, but they stay kind of near to below normal for that first week of August. So things are looking pretty good. If you can just wait a few days, actually more than a few days, if you can wait about 6 to 7 days, we should begin to see relief here in the tri-state. Okay, give me a second. I need to wet my whistle here. Arlene Angel Thompson says, no, you can't go, but have a good retirement. I will. Hey, and as a matter of fact, I don't think I'm going to completely retire from the scene. I've told the station that I'm willing to fill in when they need somebody for like vacation shifts or if people get sick or something. But I also said I want to be off at least until Christmas time, and then that's when they need it the most. So that'll give me a few months to chill out and that. So, but thank you. That was a nice comment. Back to where that was from Arlene Angel Thompson. So thank you, Arlene. Carlotta Daniel, I can see a picture of a dog in the cloud. You know what? I see dogs in clouds all the time because I'm a dog lover. We've got 10 ourselves that are all rescued. So, Carlotta, what kind of a dog is it? Any cloud with a dog in it can't be a bad cloud. All right, Garnet Rothwell. Good evening, Steve. We had a couple of 5-minute decent rain showers this afternoon in southern Adams County. Yeah, I was talking about those. As a matter of fact, I saw some lightning light up on those. They were moving quickly enough that they definitely were not severe, just some lightning and thunder in spots. And those showers in southern Adams County moved off pretty quickly and ended. But it was nice for some places to get some rain, especially with this hot weather coming off. All right, Kathy Morrison. She says, thanks. You're welcome, Kathy. And Carlotta said, thanks for the explanation. You're welcome. So, and this is a nice, so Ricky Wallace says, so, August might be nice to us? Yeah, I think at least the beginning, okay? And another thing, I tell you what, let me go back here, just so I have something to reference, rather than try and talk about all this but I'm going to go back to that hot air dome. Okay, it'll come up here behind me in just a second. It takes a few seconds to load. Okay, so that hot air dome, okay, come on, there it goes. That heads off to the west, like I mentioned, okay? That makes the jet stream come out of the north and west. That brings some cooler, drier air in from Canada. And I just looked this afternoon at all the models. These are the ones that go out a couple months, 6 months, and they all pretty much keep this hot air mass back here. Now, it may wobble a little bit and head into our area for a day or so, but it's basically saying it's going to stay out here and we're going to have this kind of pattern pretty much as we head into fall. Now, that could change. Remember, I'm never surprised when things change, but right now the modelers are thinking this is kind of the pattern as we head into fall. However, we've been surprised before where this thing decides to get bigger and grow eastward again. But right now, at least through the middle of August, I think we're looking pretty decent around the tri-states. And so that's pretty good news. Okay, let's see here. Susan Wally says, yeah, my Christmas present. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Susan. Okay, those are all the comments. I would thank you very much for watching. Usually I'm off on Fridays, but tomorrow I am going to be working. I'll be here at 7:15, so we can talk more about all this again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. Have yourself a good evening. Stay cool tomorrow, and I will talk to you again at 7:15.